What it is, gearheads, Martin here from Flinger Wrench Garage, and have a new project vehicle to introduce, and I'm stoked about this one. I saw one of these about 10 years ago, instantly wanted one, but it's taken that long for me to actually get my hands on one. Now, this is a 1967 Kaiser Jeep M715. They made these from 1967 to 1969. And for these, I specifically see numbers in that 30,000 ballpark. How many of those were left overseas? How many were destroyed? How many, when they were transferred to fire departments, were destroyed? How many have rusted out or become parts vehicles? Hard to say of that 30 whatever thousand. Now, if you're wondering what my plans are for this, I'd like to take pictures of all the original marking, base markings, and then maybe paint the whole thing in silver and put all the original base markings back on it again. Now, if you're out there screaming, keep it original, look, I get it. I agree with you that some vehicles should be restored. Absolutely, no question about it. However, I am missing the hard top for this. I'm also missing the frame for the canvas top. I'm also missing the tailgate. Furthermore, if you're wondering what my further plans are for it, this is a 38-inch Michelin XML military tire. I picked up a pair recently. I need to pick up two more at the very least. I'd like to get a third so I have a spare, but I will need to pick up another artillery wheel to have a spare. These bedsides are designed to hold axes, pickaxes, jerry cans, so I need to put those back on as well. Now, if you're still not convinced that this vehicle can't or shouldn't be destroyed or shouldn't be restored, the entire original military drivetrain is long gone. It's been replaced with the 350 small block Chevy, an SM465 manual transmission, and a Dana 20 twin stick transfer case. So, yeah, the original drivetrain is long gone at this point. I actually did this vehicle introduction about a week ago, but the footage corrupted on me. So, here we are again. But I did get some work done. As you saw, I did put some LED lights. I do have some new parking lights, factory style, to put on, as well as some tail lights. These are way brighter than the incandescents. This carburetor, it's a perfectly fine carburetor. It's just, it is leaking like a sieve, and it has some definite running issues. I think like the accelerator pump gasket shot, among others. So it needs a rebuild. This is a Holley 600 CFM vacuum secondary carb manual choke. And this happens to be a Holley 600 CFM vacuum secondary 4-barrel carb. Also, manual choke. So that is going on to this. This, even though they're both Holley 600 CFM vacuum secondary carbs with manual choke, they are worlds apart as far as their differences. So we're going to talk about that when we get there. One other thing I did manage to do was I installed a new PowerMaster high torque gear reduction starter, and that's a brand new unit, so I don't want to fry it. And if you know anything about cars, you know header heat kills starters quick. So we need to put on a heat shield. So we're going to do that. And if I'm pulling the carb, why not go ahead and replace the intake? I picked up this old Edelbrock intake probably 10 years ago, ended up getting it for like 10 or 15 bucks at a swap meet. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and swap that on there as well. Shop cat, go catch mice. So with that being said, oh, I did replace all the battery cables, so the original ones were shot. Oh yeah, I gotta replace, I put in a starter brace. We're gonna talk about what they are, what they do. Do you need one? How do you know which one? We're also gonna be talking about ground cables. I need to put in a ground cable from the block to the body and another one from the block to the chassis. So we've got a good solid ground all around. So yeah, I guess with all that being said, let's get started. Okay, so quick update here. I need to get used to documenting what I'm doing better. I'm used to getting in the groove and I just start wrenching and I don't think about it until afterward. So I apologize for that. I need to work on better documenting what it is that I'm doing. But we do have an update here, quite a few actually. The first thing is we drained the radiator. We pulled the top radiator hose, thermostat housing, thermostat. For a little bit of extra precaution, I used my shop vac to pull as much out of this intake as I could get. The last thing I want is for any coolant when I crack the seal on this intake going down into the cylinders. Furthermore, I also pulled the oil pan drain plug, so any coolant that does go into the cylinders can go right back out again. Of course, I'll top it off once I start getting it buttoned up here with the new filter and fresh oil. In the process of pulling the distributor, I did get the #1 piston up to top dead center, obviously, and then I pulled the distributor. But in the process of pulling the distributor, I found something really interesting, and that is, it looks like this terminal either got burnt or broken off. It doesn't look burnt because it's still shiny, it's not black. So that is definitely a potential cause for why it was running so poorly. Again, remember, this is not a revival. This is just getting it running better and more reliably. So that explains a lot. It really does. And in case you didn't know, do I have a, yeah, HEI plug wires actually attach to the terminals here. And you can actually hear them click on when you put them on the terminals, and they click when you take them off. This explains why every time I open the hood, this boot spark plug was disconnected, because essentially from the vibration, it was just, this is just smooth plastic. So since it wasn't attached to the terminal, it would slide off and begin running very poorly. So yeah, now normally I like to leave a mark on the distributor shaft, somewhere around here on the distributor shaft, and then leave an additional corresponding mark on the intake. But since this intake is going bye-bye, it doesn't really matter that much. Obviously, I'm going to be retiming this anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. I did pull the valve covers, and I'm glad to see there's not a huge amount of sludge on these. There's a little bit, but not a lot, and that's good news. Now, again, I don't know anything about this engine, good, bad, or ugly. So I did get the intake disconnected, got all the brackets and all the bolts out. Obviously got the carb and the spacer out. So fingers crossed, this isn't a sludge motor. I'm really hoping that this valley is not filled with sludge. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out, huh? Oh, okay. I can work with that. That's not bad. Okay, woo, that is a relief, my friends. Whew. Okay, I'm really glad to see that. I've seen some of these motors be really, really bad. I literally found a motor years ago in a car that the sludge was literally level with the valve cover. It's a mating surface. I mean, all the way across. I didn't even know how the damn thing continued to run. But the push rods and the valve springs had worked a perfect little groove hole into the sludge, and it still kept running. It was truly, truly amazing that thing kept running. But okay, so let me get this intake completely out of the way. Right now I've got this alternator bracket kind of hung up on the intake. We'll get this big heavy bastard out of here, and then we'll continue along as we go. Okay, well, we're making some progress. Ignore these valve covers. They're just on there loosely for the time being. I'm still waiting for my reusable Felpro gaskets. I need to go ahead and get some aftermarket valve covers, small block Chevy valve covers. But we have the intake in place. I need to get the bracket in back. This is not fitted. So I got the water neck in place. So yeah, we're making good progress so far, for the most part. Need to make sure I get the distributor in. I think that's a good place to go. I also need to get a couple of fuel filters while I'm at it to replace both of these old ones. They're looking quite brown. So yeah, so that's kind of the update. Yeah, so the rags are just stuffed in there for the time being until I get the carb on there. But I want to get the distributor and bracketry and spark plugs and plug wires all routed before I go to town, you know, worrying about that too much. So, all right. So, be back with you in a minute. All right, we're making some progress here, and you can ignore these valve covers for the time being. They're there only to keep dirt and debris out of the valve train, the heads. I need to buy some aftermarket, small block Chevy aftermarket valve covers, and I'll add those to the list. I'm still waiting on my valve cover Velcro reusable gaskets, and I'm still waiting on my 2 fuel filters, as well as a new carb spacer. Excuse me. So the reason I want a carb spacer, I want to get a 1-inch carb spacer. Unfortunately, the carb spacer that was on here, one of the owners kind of cut up and made it into a adapter slash spacer. So I don't know if I can reuse it. I'm going to try. I'm also waiting on a stud kit again. All I have is bolts, so I'm probably going to run the bolts for the time being until I can get the stud kit. I dropped this distributor in. It went right in, no problem there. Got the new water neck on. Let's see. Got the gaskets. By the way, when you're doing gaskets on an intake, there's really only 2 spots you need to think about using RTV. The first is on the China wall, which runs in the front and in the rear. The second is going to be around the water ports. I would definitely put some silicone around those. Other than that, most of the time these good gaskets are designed to actually compress when you actually bolt down the intake, so you don't have to worry about it. So just a little bit of advice there. I got the new gasket on the distributor over there, so that's in place, at least loosely for the time being. So yeah, let's keep going. I'll see you in a minute. Step by step, little by little. That's all that matters, man. Just one step at a time. Even if you only get one thing done each day, it adds up. It's all gonna get there. You know, this is the moment where I'm most excited, because this is when stuff's going back on and you're getting closer and closer to that first fire up, since kind of a minor or major renovation, depending on how you look at things. I'm really starting to get excited now. And off topic, does anyone else think that it's total BS that MSD can't even bother to send a coil cap for an HEI distributor? You buy an HEI cap, you buy an HEI rotor, and they're just like, yeah, use your ugly old coil cap. Like, that is such BS in my opinion. I hate that. But anyway, moving on. We did get the new rotor, new cap on. We got to get the new wires and plugs in. We got to get the new carb on. We got the brackets. We got a new fuel filter. I do need to replace the fuel filter down there as well. That's looking pretty nasty, so that should be an easy job. Yeah, I think that's we're getting there. Anybody have an opinion on which aftermarket small block Chevy valve covers I should go with, rather than these beat to ever loving hell? I mean, it looks like somebody just took a hammer to these things. Why would you do that? I don't understand. Like, both sides have just been beat to death. But anyway, so yeah, I guess the next step is we need to get the carb on. We got new gaskets, we got the spacer. We've got to do something about that throttle cable. This throttle cable is not intended to be right here. You can see how much excess there is. I need to look into maybe a under carb throttle bracket kind of cable holder here, because I think if we went with an aftermarket like under carb throttle bracket, that would just about be perfect. But yeah, we'll kind of have to see, because that's just way too much slop in this pedal. Way too much slop. I mean, you have to push the pedal further and further and further, and it just, the carb doesn't respond. So that's something I got to look into. Yeah, I guess let's keep cracking on this beast and see where we go. Okay, let's talk about what it is I'm going to be doing, because it's easier to talk about it up here on top of the vehicle than it is getting down there and talking about it. So I'm going to be installing a heat shield around the starter. If you've been around cars or trucks long enough, you know that heat is the enemy of starters. And there's a couple different types of heat shields. There's a blanket like this that wraps around the starter, and then you clamp it with something like wire ties like these. And the other type is like a fixed metal piece that actually bolts to the starter. I've had good luck with the fixed metal ones. Haven't really tried these blankets yet. This will be the first time. But with headers, it has a really bad habit of killing starters. I don't care what make or model we're talking about. That's just the nature of the beast. As it stands, this blanket is going to wrap around the starter, and we're going to clamp it to the starter. That's going to reduce radiant heat coming off of those headers. So the goal is to reflect that heat back off of the starter, and that way we're going to keep that starter cooler. The other thing I'm going to be doing is installing a starter brace. Now, a lot of companies put these on stock right out of the box. Now, that's not enough of a reason for me to run it, but what a starter brace does is it helps support the end of the starter that's just kind of hanging out there, just kind of dangling out on its own. Now, I can tell you I have seen and heard horror stories of people when they have high compression engines and high torque starters, you get what's called starter kickback, and that's kind of a torquing or a twisting of the starter. And I've even seen pics of people breaking their bell housing and cracking their mounting, the block, the actual engine block itself where it mounts. So that's why I'm going to be running the starter brace. Does it work? No, I can't prove that it does. Can I prove that it doesn't? No. To me, this is kind of like having a condom. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. If there's any chance that this does prevent that starter kickback, I'm going to take it. And these are only like $8, less than $8. So yeah, a little bit of insurance. One end mounts to the engine block, and the other end actually mounts to the end of the starter. Now, there's typically two different types of braces, long and short. Which one do you need? It basically just depends on the stud on the end of the starter. Is the stud at the top? Then you probably need a short one. Is the stud towards the bottom? Then you probably need the long one. That's just kind of generally speaking. Okay, so that's what I have to do next. By the way, I did get some parts ordered. One of them was the valve covers. I went ahead and ordered a new set. I also ordered a new temperature sender and an adapter to go into this intake. What else? Oh, I ordered my carb stud kit. I'm still waiting on that. I have some Loctite. I had to reorder. I'm out. Seems like every time I'm doing something, I run out when I need it most. So, but yeah, I'll be putting some blue Loctite on those carb studs there. And then I feel like there's something else that I'm forgetting. Oh well, we'll get there when we get there. Oh, I did get the new plugs in, so I'm ready to put the spark plug wires on, but I'd rather wait to have the valve covers on first, so I don't have to try and fish the valve covers in and out around those wires. So we'll just wait on that. All right, well, let's get to it. Really exciting right now. We get to start this beast for the very first time after all of that work. I probably should have recorded some video footage of how badly and poorly it ran before and how hard starting it was before. But I guess that ship has kind of sailed. But whether you're doing a junkyard engine swap or whether you completely rebuilt an engine yourself, this moment is really exciting. This is just really minor superficial stuff that I've done here. But if I got it right, it'll fire right up. If I didn't, well, it won't. So we're going to fire this beast up for the first time. I think I have the fuel system primed a little bit. There's a little bit of gas in here. So that'll be good. I will need to tune the carb still and also fine tune my timing with my timing light. So that'll be this is just kind of temporary for the time being, obviously. So all right, I'm going to try to prop the camera up here and fire this bad boy up for the first time. And hopefully all goes well. Fingers crossed. Camera there we are. All right. Excellent. We had a solid 30 pounds of oil pressure at idle. So that's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Obviously temp didn't come up, and obviously the volt gauge didn't move either. So I'll have to keep an eye on those two as they come up to temperature, and I use this more and more. But that'll probably wrap up this video series for the time being. Keep on the lookout for future updates on this. Like I said, I want to put in some 38-inch tires. I want to do a lot of other work. I want to change out a lot, get a new top, get a tailgate, some new body panels, on and on. Really get this thing shining like a diamond and looking good. So if you're interested, let me know down in the comment section. If you want to see more of the little tedious work that I do, put it down in the comment section. I'm still trying to learn how to do this stuff. I just work on all kinds of cool stuff all the time, and I don't think about recording it. So there you have it. If you want to see me scraping gasket, put it in the comment section. If you want to see me scraping gasket, if you want to see me tuning the carb, if you want to see me finalizing timing and things of that nature, put it in the comment section and I will be more than happy to do it. Or if you just like little updates as we go, that's fine as well. So until next time, this has been Martin from Plinga Wrench Garage. Keep wrenching.